Yeah, so next year for the Web3 space is definitely going to be very interesting, and it's going to test the resilience and the belief and the convictions that lie in the Web3 space. On one hand, in 2022, we've definitely taken a lot of hit in the space, and if you think of what happened with Terra Luna and then what happened with FTX and actually the continuous debacle of that, I think in 2023 we will still obviously pay the price of that. And what does it mean paying the price of it? It means that, one, from actually a reputation perspective, the entire space is tarnished, and actually two, from a regulatory perspective, it means that what we can expect is actually continuous and strengthened oversight. Not that nothing had been done in 2022, but I think we can expect continuous oversight to happen in the space. On the positive note, though, what I would say is that in 2022, we actually started seeing the birth of some real-life use cases. And I think we will continue to see that in 2023, which is extremely important for the entire space. It is really important to actually see what are the real-life use cases and how Web3 can really be used as an additional layer of infrastructure on the internet to basically enable people to actually have control of their data and of their asset. One of the things I'm particularly super interested in for 2023 is, as we think of the reinvention of social media, what will Web3 do for that? And when you look, for example, the current debacle that we're having with Twitter, thinking through Web3 gives a real hope for actually changing the ownership of content and of data from that space. I think in terms of DeFi, what will be interesting for next year is to see what continuous innovation we see in this space. Because what we've also seen in 2022 is definitely what has actually cracked and what doesn't work is centralized finance. The fallings we've seen are very, very much linked to actually third parties which rely on humans being in the middle. So in 2023, more transparency, more on-chain data, and more innovation in DeFi, I think is definitely what we're going to continuously see to enable the rest of Web3. And across the rest of Web3, I think when you think of other innovations, definitely I think anything related to reinventing social media, definitely anything, in particular in 2022, we saw a lot happening in sports and entertainment and gaming, and I think that will definitely also continue. And for that to continue, DeFi is absolutely a key pillar. For next year to see a continuous increase in real-life use cases, I think it is about time for Web3 to move beyond, metrics such as, price of tokens and total value locked, which actually are not really, showcasing any of the usage and the number of users and the active engagement that is on that technology. So for 2023, continuously to see that engagement and those real-life use cases is extremely important. And I think, one of my other hope is that we should continuously see an influx of talent coming into the space. It's true that in 2022, and especially towards the end of 2022, the entire tech industry has been hammered by, layoffs, and the entire tech industry has actually been hammered by needed to rejig and rethink actually the growth and the tremendous growth that has happened through COVID. And so in 2023, what we should expect is actually a re-leveling of that talent. And I think that's actually very hopeful for the entire Web3 space. Because if you think of Web3 as actually more infrastructure, additional infrastructure that is on top of the internet and that enables to invent and reinvent use cases, I think that influx of talent will actually be extremely beneficial for the entire space. Look, we've been extremely conservative with our Treasury in 2022. We've also been extremely conservative in how we're pursuing. We've always been very big believers in active users rather than actually other metrics. And we've started in 2022 to see real use cases, for example, with the like of Sweatcoin, with the like of SitLab, which is actually a ticketing platform, and with the like, for example, of CellGP, which has announced that a DAO can now actually participate and purchase an entire sports team into one of the only completely, very, very professional sports league, which is a huge thing. So I think for NEAR, what it means is that we're extremely well positioned to weather the storm and the winter that no doubt will be actually extremely long, because when we look at the macro conditions and in addition to that, actually the space of crypto, the next years are actually going to be years of resilience and conviction and actually enabling to go go through that will require a lot of capital and actually a lot of thoughtful management to get to real life use cases. So for Near, we're extremely well positioned because our tech is super solid. Our tech is actually extremely usable, extremely user friendly. The amount of talent that we have in the ecosystem is absolutely incredible. And the war chest we have with the Treasury that is across the Near ecosystem is quite unbelievable. So we have all the pieces of the puzzle to actually go out of that with a very strong foothold. So to predictions, especially for women in Web3, I think it continuously is extremely important to have diversity and inclusion in this space. And in particular, if we look at some of the fallings of what has happened in 2022, what I find heartbreaking is that most of those fallings are very often things that we've seen in the past when there is actually a lack of diversity and inclusion. And sectors, for example, like sectors of banking, have been able to redirect that by actually, having a very strong agenda for diversity and inclusion. Because at the end of the day, if you have diverse and inclusive team, there is diversity of thoughts, and there is less likelihood that there will be, hunch or things that are looked at in a way that lacks controls and that lacks governance. So the need for diversity and inclusion has never been so true and so important in the moment that we are. And so my hope for 2023, and actually my wish, is that we continue to see an incredible amount of talent coming from all walks of life and from all aspects, and that we continue having diversity and inclusion in Web3. At Near, we're extremely proud of that. NearCon was our key event in September of 2022, which happened in Lisbon, and 176 countries were represented with 38% of women, which is actually quite incredible. And so my hope for 2023 is that we continue seeing that, not just for Near, but across the entire Web3 ecosystem, because ultimately diversity and inclusion leads to better decision making.